Welcome to The Leaderboard with Matt Towery and John Hall, the only podcast that litigates the results, slices through the spin, and keeps score on everything that actually matters, which of course includes golf. So listen in now to the next episode as we jump right in.
Hello everyone, I'm Matt Towery and welcome to The Leaderboard with my co-host John Hall and my other co-host from Polling Plus, and it's great to see you, Robert Cahaly. We are so happy to have you with us, Robert, and plan on having you back a lot. We got a lot to talk about. This is you're not supposed to time date these things, but I think we have to tell people this is on a Tuesday, and there are primaries going on. We will not know the results of those, so we probably won't make predictions. But there's a lot we can talk about in general that's going on in politics, and we'll give you some leaders and some laggards, but we'll do that a little later on. First of all, Robert, I'm going to let John Hall ask you the first question because John has some curious questions about polling.
Well, Robert, thanks, and great to see you and catch up, my buddy. Really appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
The Democrats are currently leading, I think, across the country in these generic congressional districts by 5 to 10 points, and some people say it's even going to be bigger. It's going to be a big Democratic push. And I know from your experience, you and Matt and other quality pollsters have always went and dug deeper in and found out what the vote of those Republicans who may not be showing up on these polls. What do you think the outcome is going to be? I know it's early, but predicting forward, are we heading to a Democratic sweep, a Republican sweep, or just a coin toss with the breakup we have right now where they fight over every issue?
Yeah, I think that the Republicans aren't as bad as the numbers say, but Republicans should not be optimistic right now. There's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and the midterms. And what we've seen in the past, I think Matt will agree, if the Republicans are only down on the generic ballot by, 2 or 3, that probably means it'll be about a dead even vote. Some of these polling averages always favor the Democrats, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So the Republicans just need to get that number competitive. And there's a lot of things that are going to affect that. I mean, certainly cost of living issues, price of fuel coming down after whatever's going to be done in Iran is done. And certainly whatever changes may come, with the new Fed, do they lower rates? How does that trickle down? And, the overall economy, I think that more than anything, the economy will drive the 2026 midterms. People are going to vote their pocketbooks, and there are a lot of things that are, on the rise, that are highly possible for the Republicans to do well. The stage is set, but fuel prices, energy prices are kind of holding a lot of that back. But there are a lot of new jobs coming online, so yeah, I'd give the advantage to the Democrats right now. But watch that generic ballot number, and if that thing starts tightening up, within 2 or 3 points, I think you can expect a spirited fall. And the other thing, there's going to be a lot of brand new districts that we don't know anything about. It's kind of like, getting all excited about this brand new garden party you're going to have and ordering you a special suit that you don't get to try on and you only get to wear it on the day of the party. You think you've done everything right, but you ain't going to know whether it fits until the day you have to wear it. And I think that's what we're going to find in a lot of these redrawn states.
So, Robert, let's talk a little bit more about the generic ballot. We had 2 polls come, one from New York Times, Siena, and one from Atlas Intel. And both of them had the Republicans down by double digits. I think Atlas Intel was 15, if I'm not mistaken. And then New York Times, I was just looking up, I think down by 11. I can't think of anything that in the last week would have precipitated such a phenomenal shift from the average of 5 or 6 or even less in favor of the Democrats to 11 and 15. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, the thing about, and Matt would be the first to tell you this, you know this too, and I guess you kind of let me be the one that says this, but there's a lot of stuff that happens with polls that aren't right near the elections. People get held accountable for what they put out in late October and early November. And
Right.
sometimes, I feel like kind of their wish list makes polls this far out. And
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
I think there's some thumbs that may be on some scales somewhere. Certainly in America and in Atlas's case elsewhere. Um, so
We don't know. To be clear, we don't know. That's just your
yeah,
opinion. But
could be.
yeah,
But again,
right.
like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if you get a little bit of that because a lot of pollsters, and we try to, I think we both fight this, you know, you want to be your own devil's advocate because your turnout methods a lot of the time reflects, where you are. And so in that way, you can kind of affect your own polls if you're not your greatest devil's advocate must be yourself. And you've got to be
Right.
second guessing yourself all the time. And I think that's kind of how I know that's how we both kind of keep ours right in the middle because we're always second guessing ourselves and, playing that devil's advocate. And it's also
Well,
good for us to know each other because we can play devil's advocate for each other.
and to that end, I can tell you right now, in Georgia, they're having a primary today. We don't know what the results will be, but what we do know is that in early voting, the Democrats outvoted the Republicans by over 150,000 votes. And that does not bode well for the Republican
That
Party
does
in
not
November.
bode well for winning the Senate seat or the governor's race.
It's because, as you recall, Robert, in the 2024 election, Republicans, I think, outstripped Democrats in Georgia in early voting, or at least were very competitive. When you have that kind of turnout, and by the way, I have to say this: the National Republican Party, I think there was a request made by the Georgia Republican Party for help with turnout. They gave them, I think, 25,000, or some group did. I don't know if it's actually the Republican Party or not, but it was some entity or pack. $25,000 to turn out the vote in Georgia? Are you kidding me? It's
I
just,
think of counties that you need $25,000 to turn on the vote.
I mean, well, look, they also, Georgia they've got people there who really know how to turn out the vote. And I know who they are. And they went to the RNC and said in 2025, when they had this special election in November, you had Public Service Commission races up. And
Which is
they said,
important in Georgia, no question.
it's incredibly important. That's how you change from one party to another. You start with the PSC. That's how Georgia did it in the first place and became Republican. Now we're on the verge of having a democratically controlled PSC. They went to the RNC. I know for a fact, asked for the money. And what I'm told is that in the end, the RNC sent out one or two little texts that you had to go from the text to their own page to read about. And you know how that works. Nobody opens it. Nobody looks at it. I mean, what the hell are they doing in D.C.?
Well, if I knew what they were doing, all I know is there's one thing they do well in D.C., and they do it better than any place I've ever seen. They can burn money. Like they got a furnace tossing it in there. These guys are excellent. I don't think any of them have ever seen kindling in their life. They think it's political money. That's how they start all their fires, is stuff political money. But
Maybe,
they burn it
maybe
well.
we need to get Doge looking at these,
Yeah.
Yeah,
national
and notice
parties.
You're
that
right.
the Democrats are fighting on whether to release their internal audit. I ain't heard Republicans say nothing about no internal audit, and I don't think they will. I'd rather see the Republican internal audit than the Democrat internal audit. I think
Well, my question.
there'd be a lot of people kind of running around in shame, maybe wearing some dark glasses, sliding out of town.
Hell, if I knew
That's
you could have made that much money in politics, I would have went and done it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've done well, John. Being a lawyer, you didn't destroy your life being a politician. That's the good thing. John had another question for you, Robert.
Yeah, this one really goes to the affordability, and you were talking about the importance of that coming up on the election. I really wonder the real depth of that affordability. I know it's psychologically out there that people really are looking. If you look at the numbers, they're not as drastic as the press makes it out to be. Do you think that we're going to be able to get people to kind of center and look at what's real and vote based on really what's happening, the tax cuts, no tax on tips, the hopefully lower gas prices by then with the war being over at that point? Do you think they'll go there, or is this so psychologically led that horse is out the barn?
Well, you notice in the Biden administration, they kept telling people how great the economy was, but they didn't feel it. And so they didn't vote based on it. And I think you may end up with the reverse phenomena where the media is telling people how bad the economy is, but a lot of them don't feel it. And so I think people are going to vote what they actually feel. And there's a lot of information about people who get paid with tips and overtime that are seeing that savings right now, that are seeing it in tax returns and everything. And so there's a lot to be happy about there. And, who knows that the Fed's going to have some meetings. They can, literally this thing, the economy could take off, and people who've been have been sitting on a house they don't want to because they cannot afford, they got such a great deal, they just can't even begin to think about buying another one. If they start seeing that come down, it's all about how people feel at that time.
Robert, as you know, this has always been, I think, both of us, our big theme, and that is the media that people consume. And you and I did a poll on this, as a matter of fact, and we showed that about 25% of America gets their news from a conservative, quote unquote, source, mainly Fox, but a few others. And about 75% of the rest of the country get their news from ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, or whatever, and it's delivered to them via their Google News and their Apple News and online. And so you run into a phenomenal number of people who won't know anything about certain issues or certain things the president's done that have been positive. The spin on his trip to China, for example, was just dreadful. I mean, ABC and NBC and CNN made it sound like he was a complete flop. And only CBS made a little bit of an adjustment and tried to give a little fairer balance to the coverage. But you would have thought he went over there and just nothing got done, and it was a waste of time, and that the Chinese got the better of him, which isn't the case. But that's the kind of thing we fight all the time, don't we?
There's undoubtedly there's a significant media bias. It has not gone away. And I'll tell you where it's actually worst, because this is the place that it bleeds over into conservative media, is this kind of media acceptance that there are certain polls that meet. They all want each network to carry each other's polls. So they all kind of, even the conservative ones, subscribe to this. Oh, that came from a university. Oh, paired with, a private sector firm or just by themselves. Oh, that came from a respected media outlet. So it's, they're all not willing to take something from the outside. And people want to be on the side of what's happening. And if you tell people enough that everybody in your town, prefers Lysol, even if you don't get Lysol, you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? I should be for Lysol. Polls have an effect. Polls are psychological. And I think that is one of the most devastating things, that they don't see real polling. I mean, you've got to go to some of the conservative outlets to see real polling. I'd love to tell you that on the big conservative TV networks, they cover the real, polling across the board, but they don't. They're in the same groups.
I mean, let's be honest. The only time our polls see airtime is on Sean Hannity's show,
or if a president talks about them.
Yeah, I mean, I did Laura Ingram's show a week ago, and I didn't even know it. The president put it out on Truth Social, but that's the only way that you penetrate is by first being there and being able to say something, and then somebody being able to take it and put it out there in that broader, wider social media world. And the Republicans have just done a terrible job at it. And I think that they've not done a good job of standing up, quite frankly, for us, because we're fair to the Republicans. We don't. People think, oh, we're in the bag for the president. We're not in the bag for the president. We just happen to poll him well, and they don't. And we know why. I mean, we know how to weight the poll, and we know how to find the people who will tell us how they feel about Donald Trump instead of doing it the way they do it.
The right way.
Right. Mm-hmm. And when you take all of that together, you get this incredible disparity. I mean, you got, I think it was either, I think not Wall Street Journal, I guess it was the New York Times poll, said that, Trump is at his lowest level he's been at in all of the terms both terms that he served. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe it. I think he may be down a little bit on the war because all they do is talk about gas prices, like that's the end of the world. But I don't see it. What are your thoughts?
I agree. Like I said, I feel like sometimes there's not enough devil's advocate going on inside of some of these other places, and they're putting their spin on a lot of stories, and they are affecting the way people feel about things, and that is what's troubling. Is you got a whole generation of kids now, growing into millennials or adults, real adults at this point, and they're still kind of looking for that Apple News update in the morning, and they don't realize that it is being filtered and they're being fed something that is very one-sided. And unless people do their own work.
I saw a poll, Robert, come out. Some pollsters sponsored by NewsGuard. Well, we all know what NewsGuard is. That's a pile of crap the liberals put together to monitor and filter what's good news and bad news and make sure that you're not seen or heard. And I mean, they're just as biased as you can get, in my opinion. And so it's just when NewsGuard, I'm waiting for Snopes to start putting out polling too, after that bullshit they did on number on me, saying that they didn't know if we had a physical office or didn't know much about the firm or its credibility. Well, we've only been around for what, 30-some years? It's crazy. Poll for every network affiliate you can think of. It's just infuriating. So
because they don't have any information and they just go off half-cocked, and maybe they go on, looking at what they do, and they want to envision that that's what we do, and it's just not the case. And the only thing worse than all these media polls and the university polls, at least have the guts to put them out before an election so they can be measured, is all these pollsters who tell you how great they are, and yet they never put anything in public. They're part of the Washington, D.C., hey, if the poll's $30,000, the client pays $35,000, so, they get a piece for recommending them. And, you end up with absolutely terrible pollsters getting hired all the time because they've never been put to this test of, does what you say happen? They do everything in the shadows, and, they're all part of a referral system.
So, John, let's play a little game right now. We are a good number of months out from the midterms. I want each of us to predict right now, if we had to predict based on today, okay, what would happen in the House and what would happen in the Senate. Who would win? Who would end up with the majority?
Well, I'll throw out initially. I think the Senate's going to stay close. I think the Republicans will keep it, but it's still going to be a very, very short majority in terms of where, and that's going to be complicated by the Republicans who aren't really Republicans, who are as part of that majority, and the votes are going to be difficult because of that. And until we get new Senate leadership, as we've talked about before with Thune, he's never going to step out there and do it. As to the House, I really think this redistricting, which I believe is probably the most significant thing to happen in the last 10 years in terms of shift of population voting, I think the redistricting, if it continues the way it is and a couple of other states do it, you could see a 10 to 20 seat Republican majority in the House. And that would at least allow the policies to get passed and the policies to be tried, and then people can judge, was this a good policy or not? I think most people hate Trump because of those that hate him because of the way he acts. But most people, if it was just his policies and he was a Democrat, they would put him on Mount Rushmore. And so I think we'll see that in a lot of these districts going forward.
How about you, Robert?
Democrats up by 7 in the House, Republicans up by 1 in the Senate.
Okay, and I'll say this.
And that's as of now. As of now.
Unless the Republicans get off their ass and start doing some things right this minute, Towery predicts House Democrat, Senate Democrat. That's my prediction. So they better get off their ass and get moving. I just, when I saw this Georgia debacle, and you have to wonder, they're sitting there, if they go, well, that doesn't really matter. We're worried about the turnout in the general election. But no, you're going to lose some judges that you really need in the state of Georgia if you're a Republican. They're going down. They're going down because you can't start out the election day with 150,000 negative votes against you. And most of that, even though they're nonpartisan races, everybody knows who's who and what's what. And so it looks like to me the Democrats, and look, you can't say they're cheating. There's very little early voting in these primaries. This is just good old-fashioned turning your people out. And the Republicans, I don't think they're enthused right now. I think there's a lack of enthusiasm. And we got to find a way to either bring enthusiasm to the Republican Party, or they're going down I'll even predict this. I think in Georgia, which everybody in the country thinks, oh, well, Georgia's naturally red. Georgia will lose the House of Representatives this year if something doesn't change. That's going to be one hell of a kick.
You mean the state house?
State House of Representatives. Absolutely. They could lose.
Really?
They could. Yeah, nobody sees it coming, but they could lose the House of Representatives. So it is.
With the right turnout, I mean, they're going to be pouring a lot of money. The Democrat Party sees Ossoff and sees the possibility of a good gubernatorial pickup. Rest assured, they're going to be pouring money in here like it was the runoff in 2021. They are going to be pouring money in because they're going to see a real opportunity.
To your point, it was in the paper, the Atlanta paper yesterday, that Ossoff, the National Committee, has purchased $25 million in advance of TV. Now, where the hell is the damn Republican Party?
Oh, they're going to wait till 6 weeks out and pay the higher rates.
Of course, so they get more money, get a higher commission, right? Right? Higher rates, higher commission. I swear.
Hey, it's when you got political consultants measuring yacht size, you got problems.
And we've had that going on forever. I just think
that part has actually gotten worse.
Yeah.
The kind of money we're talking about would blow average citizens' minds.
Yeah, most of it stays in their pockets.
The amount of when a dollar goes to Washington, I don't care how it comes back. The campaign or candidate receives probably $30 to $40. I mean, 30 to 40 cents on the dollar back in actual election work. It was a lot of money sent to Washington.
John,
that's like the USAID before they broke it up. 100% of the funds go overseas. 97% of it stay on K and L and E
So,
streets.
John, do you get these texts that I get, and I think everybody else gets, things that say like, President Trump is giving you one last chance, or he's never talking to you again. We're so disappointed in you. Matt, your MAGA recertification is up for grabs. You need to respond. Do you get that stuff?
I do. I give to both parties at times, and so I get it from the Democrats and the Republicans. And the Trump ones are very personal, as you just characterized, which I don't know that who thinks that's a good strategy.
It's not Trump. It's various entities within the party. They use this thing called WinRed.
If you click on those things, it is hard as heck to figure out who's paying for them. But if you dig down, you'll eventually figure it out. Oh, this is Senate Leaders Fund. Oh, this is NRSC. It is so rarely anything to do with
Well,
Trump.
I'm kind of
They
thinking
just use his
maybe the
name.
Democrats are running those in order to make Trump look bad as they're going through that process. Who
Well,
knows?
I don't have a single friend who hasn't told me, hey, Matt, because they think I have some power, which I have none, in the Republican Party. Can you get these people to quit sending these obnoxious texts because it makes me not want to vote for them?
Yeah.
And I really do believe we lose some support because of this sharp, ridiculous, nasty fundraising that they do,
Yeah.
the way they do it. And they say, oh, well, we get the money.
And the thing is, if you give, the percentage of that stays with the vendor is disgraceful.
Yeah.
If you got a candidate you want to give, don't go online and give it. I hate to say this, in this modern world, you're a lot better off. If you want a candidate get 100% of what you want to give them, you send them a check.
Or better yet, you hand it to them so they remember who you are.
I'm sorry, Robert. We've
That's
got
right.
a bunch of viewers under the age 30. You need to explain to them what a check is.
Okay, check is a little piece of paper. Oh, believe you me, I deal with it all the time. I'll say something like Rolodex and watch these kids' eyes glaze over.
So, Robert, we're gonna, since you're really more family to the show and a member than a guest, we're gonna go around and talk about who we think the winners and the losers have been in this last week, and just anything that pops in your head. I'll lead us off. My big loser of the week is Secretary of State Brad
Damn, you
Raffensperger
took mine.
in Georgia, who decided at the last minute that he just would not let the state elections board be present to watch the, quote, aggregated vote totals. They do this at the Capitol, I thought. Used to do it at the Secretary of State's office. And he apparently, now I'm going by, I have to say, now the big news media in Atlanta completely ignored this. Only Fox 5 ran a story on it, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution tweeted out 2 lines. So there's litigation going on about this today, and I think he's moving to an emergency management bunker, is what they're calling it. I guess he thinks we're going to be surrounded by hordes of people, trying to fight in battle as to who ends up being the damn governor of Georgia, which I could care less. And
Or he thinks there's going to be a toilet overflowing, and you better get somewhere safe.
yeah, no, he's probably got the toilet running right now. I mean, what an idiot! If people don't trust elections in Georgia, and so you decide when you're a candidate for governor that you're going to go somewhere in some bunker and count the damn votes and leave your state elections board, which you don't like. That's the part we should tell our viewers. He doesn't like the state elections board. They don't like him. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of crap like this that he's doing. So anyway, that's my big loser of the week. John, you got a big loser of the week?
Yeah, mine kind of goes a little bit to this perception issue. It's these college students who have, went to these schools by government loans and other loans, built up tens of thousands of dollars of debt with no plan, no reason that they were going to college other than to go and be part of the scene and have it as their life experience. And we all had that side, but most of us had that backing. At the back end, we were going to have to pay the debt. And therefore, we had to do something with it. And now that's not what it is. It's not people out there trying to get an education. And it's time for that generation to understand you can't go incur hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, not build a career that you're then going to go off of and expect everybody else is just going to take for it. And if not, it's because everybody else is unfair. Come on, grow up.
Robert, you got a loser?
Oh, yeah. I got it. Senator Bill Cassidy.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I will tell you, and y'all have seen this on my Twitter if you follow, our former client who was in the legislature in Louisiana, and she also does some work for the team, and now she's the governor's chief of staff. Well, when she was, Julie Emerson was the head, Representative Julie Emerson was the House Ways and Means chairman, and she is the one who pushed through the legislation that took Louisiana from a jungle primary in the fall, Republicans and Democrats in one primary, to partisan primaries on both sides. Bill Cassidy would have easily survived a jungle primary in a runoff against a Republican or a Democrat. And this was the only system that could let the Republicans pick their own nominees. She pushed this thing through the House and Senate. She fought back lawsuits. She did everything it took, and in partnership with the governor, and frankly, Governor Landry thought so much of Julie. She is now his chief of staff. But Julie Emerson got that legislation passed, and not only Bill Cassidy isn't in the Senate, he did not even make the runoff. He came in third.
Yep, he got what he deserved. I hear the president's going to make an endorsement between Paxton and Cornyn fairly soon. What do you think he's going to do on that, Robert?
It is going to tell a lot about what's going on, because right now you've got all of the DC establishment pouring money behind Cornyn. And it has made a lot of conservatives very upset. I mean, half of this party's problem is we spend so darn much money in the primaries trying to pick and choose that we don't have the money we need to in the fall. And you look at nonsense like Texas, two good conservative nominees, stay the heck out of it. Let them fight it out. But no, they put their thumb on the scale, just like Chewbacca versus Murkowski, two Republicans. And what happened? Senate Leadership Fund poured nearly $100 million to bail out Murkowski when we could have had a reliable conservative vote who wouldn't play any games in Chewbacca. This is what happens. And so I think the president will do horrible harm if he endorses Cornyn.
I think he's going to really hurt himself with MAGA if he does that. I mean, that's sort of like a embodiment of something that they don't like, and so I agree.
I mean, it looks like sellout. It looks like horrible sellout, and it is. I mean, what we really need is a bunch of senators who say, who are conservatives, who say number one thing: no more Senate majority leaders by secret ballot vote. It ought to trouble everybody, Democrat or Republican. The most important vote your senator makes is a secret from you. That is how these backroom deals get done. That is how Murkowski gets $100 million she didn't deserve in a primary. Backroom deals. We got to have that vote in public, and it's only going to happen if a number of senators just refuse to do the secret ballot.
So, John, you got a winner this week?
Yeah, Eric Church, the country guy, just did the commencement address at the University of North Carolina. Apologies to the North Carolina State fans. He might have dissed them a little bit. But he talked about the 6 chords on a guitar and walked through life from faith to friends to community to family. It was probably the best commencement speech one of the best I've ever seen. If you get a chance, go watch it on YouTube. It was amazing. And he's just spot on.
Well, I got a couple of winners. The golfer, relatively new, who won the PGA this week, Ray, I believe is his name, and and the loser is that course. That looked like the hardest damn golf course I've ever seen in my life. I got to tell you a funny story, John. Well, let's talk a little golf here, as you know, Robert. So I was a member of this club up in Cincinnati, because we go up there to visit Dolly's family, my wife's family. And they were lovely people, nice, could not have been a nicer group. But that course was harder than hell. The rough was this high, especially when they were getting ready for PGA qualifiers, which they do there as well. The damn thing had hills that went straight down, or you're hitting straight up. You're going blind the whole time you're playing because you don't know you don't know you're going down a hill to the left, to the right, dog leg. Now they all know the course. And by the way, the course doesn't have any markings. Isn't that great? And it has really no much of a cart path. So you're just out there riding through the hills. And so I'm watching the PGA, but I also was watching on the Golf Channel. They're showing them getting ready for an LPGA tournament. And I told my friends, my golfing buddies we'd just gotten through, I said, look at that course. That seems ungodly. Look how bad that rough is. There's no way you could play there. And then up pops the name of my club. It was a club. I'm no longer a member of it, by the way, because we don't get up to Cincinnati. It was just harder than it could be. But I'd say I make him a winner. And I would also say this. I think I want to wrap this up by talking about something that's on the mind of everyone. Now, by the time this is edited and up, we may know the answer. But I just believe that the time has come for President Trump to pull the trigger and get this thing over with Iran. And I do not believe they will ever agree to a workable peace deal. What say you guys? John?
Yeah, going back to Gopwood Ray, he is a great example. He's a family person. He is focused. He does those things, and thank goodness he's had this reward. And I think we'll be seeing a lot of him. As to the war, I'm kind of torn. I want it over, but we cannot capitulate to Iran. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. We cannot let them have control of the Strait. I mean, look what Trump's done, and modern people, I mean, the current time won't recognize it, but he's got the UAE and Israel exchanging defenses for each other. I mean, I think this is going to go down as one of the greatest changes in history if we don't blow it by capitulating.
How about you, Robert?
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I think that the whole process of the Abraham Accords has left us with almost an Arab world united against Iran. Saudi Arabia is not part of it yet, but they're all kind of working together for a common enemy. I cannot believe Iran struck out against them. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like we sent our CIA in there and made them shoot those. That makes no sense.
You're not the first one to think about that.
Well, it's a little fiction, but I think you can see a power shift coming if this continues this way, that the scope of world power starts between the U.S. and the Middle East and not the U.S. and Europe, if if that alliance is really able to form.
Well, and so when I look at it, I don't know how many of you follow Twitter, but if Lindsey Graham put out a post, I believe it was yesterday, with like a list of things that needed to happen to declare victory in Iran. And it was all about controlling the nuclear material. It was all about Strait of Hormuz, about the long range rockets, about support for terrorism. I mean, just like boom, boom, boom. What a perfect, like, you want to know what victory looks like? Here's the check boxes. And I think that's what, this has to be a win. I know people want it over, and I hear them. But all I can say is, if you think $4 is a lot to pay for gas, imagine what happens if one nuke goes off in America. Gas is $24 a gallon if you can get it. There is no comparison. And they would, if they got them, they would do it, and they would come for us. And we're talking about nukes that can fit in the back of a minivan. This is not a joke. This is serious. And, I don't think the administration has painted it as serious as it is. And I wish they'd been even more graphic. But people got to think about what life is like if they do that. Imagine something, even the worst bomb would be 100 times more than Nagasaki or Hiroshima. That is unimaginable on American soil, but it could be reality.
Okay, so coming from someone who was allegedly trained to be a diplomat, obviously that didn't work out. I say they're going to have to blow the living daylights out of them. I don't believe they will ever come to terms that we will find acceptable. And I think we're going to find that out. I think you're going to find that they'll say, okay, you can do this, but we get to keep that. And that you cannot negotiate with these people, because in the end, they're not afraid of dying. They think, they think that guy, this great party waiting for them on the other side. And so I just think they're going to have to strategically and very carefully use military action to, you don't want to cripple the country, you don't want the people starving, but hell, the country's almost crippled now. And you can always go in with supplies and humanitarian aid and other things after you disable the ability of these jerks to be able to do what they want to do. That's just sort of my opinion.
Matt, throw in. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, I'll tell you this: the two things I think that if it were me, I'd figure out a way for Elon Musk to turn the internet on completely across Iran. That's how they put down every rebellion, is the internet. And then I would find a way, like we call the Second Amendment solution, to put as many, as many AR-15s, M16s in the hands of Iranian citizens. It doesn't take but about 5 women wearing burqas with with one of those guns under her burqa to just boom, surprise. And I can tell you all those rallies would go a little differently if those guys were shooting back.
Yeah. John, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to throw in one more group of losers. These are these idiots standing outside the courtroom in New York for the Luigi Mangione hearings, standing there and saying that this gentleman that was killed, children ought to be happy he's killed, sitting there and worshiping this guy, claiming he's some sort of an Italian, handsome Italian. Those kids, those people, and it's middle-aged all the way down, their pictures ought to be everywhere. They ought to not ever have another job in America. To sit there and just to celebrate a murderer. I mean, we've seen it before. It's the Manson people that supported Manson. But this is just ridiculous that they're doing
we're
that.
getting into this whole concept of, killers being becoming superstars because they're out for the right cause, and it's idiotic. It makes you wonder about this age group and what they're thinking, but that's for us to poll, right?
Robin Hood was a hero because he stole from the rich. He didn't kill them.
That's exactly right. Well, with that note, Robert, thank you for joining us today. It's been great being back together with you. Robert and I still do a lot of polling together. We talk all the time, and Robert's going to be back with us more down the road. But for now, I'm Matt Towery for John Hall and the bow-tied one himself, as I call him, Robert Cahaly. Join us next week for another fun time at the leaderboard.